Recovery Clinic. We are so glad you are here. I encourage you, if you have not done so yet, please like our page on Facebook and follow us for more episodes. We've got a great show planned for you today, wonderful discussion. But first, let me get through a couple of house cleaning items. Narcansaw is an app created in Arkansas for resources available for people who are looking for prevention, treatment, and recovery-related topics. I encourage you to go to Arkansas Drug Takeback. It's artakeback.org for an even more buffet of resources for all things recovery. Hey, Jimmy, what's up? How you doing?
My bad, little technical difficulty right there.
Not every day do you, you got to take, you're muting your own self this time.
I did that. Man, I am super excited. I know we got an awesome show. We've got, man, I'm excited today. Big shout out to the Department of Human Services, the Office of the State Drug Director, Euler Mid-South School of Prevention and Recovery Trainings, for giving us this platform. As you guys can always tell, Chris and I are people in recovery. We do this show because we care about people in recovery. Please share this video right now. We want the message of hope to reach everybody while they're socially isolated in their house. There's a big difference between social distancing and isolation. And like we always say on the Recovery Clinic, the dope house and the liquor store didn't close down because of COVID-19. So tune in and let's talk recovery. And Chris, tell them what we got.
Absolutely, Jimmy. Thank you. And, addiction doesn't take a day off, and so neither can we. We know that. The Recovery Clinic was created to stay connected, to have a way to engage, to find your support and accountability during a time that you may feel disconnected. Today, we've got a wonderful guest, Patrick Holbert, all the way from New York City. Why don't you bring Patrick on, Jimmy, and we'll have a discussion with him.
Okay, here you come.
Patrick is living in New York City. Hey, Patrick.
NYC.
As a stand-up comedian. Hey, how you doing over there?
I'm great. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to chatting.
We are too. Thank you for flexing on everybody with that beard you've got there.
Yeah, this is my COVID-19 beard.
Yeah. Coming right out of spring, out of hibernation, hopefully soon.
Yeah, man, totally.
So, Patrick, we were talking a little bit before the show, getting to know each other, and you've got one heck of an experience. We'd love to hear more about how your early days, maybe pre-recovery. I know that you had some interning on the Conan show.
Yeah. Coming up on this May, I think it'll be about 19 years ago. I was going into the city, into Manhattan. I went to college in Long Island, New York, which is just east of New York City. And I was heading into the big Manhattan like 3 times a week to go work for one of my heroes now. At the time, I didn't really realize how lucky I was to have this cool job, but because I was really getting into heavy drinking at the time, but it was a special time, and I loved it, and it was a great place to work.
Yeah. So how old were you? You said like 19, 20?
Yeah, it was my junior year, so I must have been, or it was the summer after. Man, everything gets so weird and muddy. Let's see. No, I was 21. I must have been 21 at the time I was doing Conan. I had done other internships. The summer I was 19, I was going to VH1 for that summer, and I was only 19. And that's when I did stand-up for the first time, was during that internship. And that was between freshman and sophomore years of college. And I knew I really wanted to be a comedian, but it was this kind of like secret I kept to myself because I thought it was, I was like trying too hard to get attention or something if I wanted to be funny on stage. but yeah, I had just started drinking in college. It was my freshman year of college when I drank for the first time.
So you know, it's kind of a really cool perspective for what you do today as a stand-up comic. You got to literally watch one of the greats. Talk to us about how that kind of formulated who you are today.
Yeah, so it was so weird thinking about the trajectory of how that all happened. Like going into college, I remember thinking, all right, because I'm from a rural part of upstate New York, and I remember thinking I need to be near New York City if I want to become a comedian. I need to be near New York, but I was too scared to be in New York City, so I decided on Long Island. And so freshman year, I joined the TV club, and I knew I wanted to be a comic, and I wanted to figure out how to be on TV, but I was simultaneously discovering drinking at the same time. So 3 years later, by the time I got to Conan, and I was around comedy legends, I mean, it's not just Conan that makes that show amazing. There's like 20 amazing comedy writers, many of whom I still follow to this day. Some of them still work on the show. Many of them are comics, and they're amazing comics in their own right. But anyway, when I got to junior year and I was working amongst comics, I had already felt like I failed as a comedian because I had done some open mics, only a handful, honestly. I did 2 in Manhattan in that first summer after freshman year. And then I did a handful on campus. I would do these. I remember there was this one sorority that would put on open mics, and I would do these open mics trying to tell jokes or sing stupid songs with an acoustic guitar. And I just kept bombing. Like I think I had one open mic on campus that went really well, and I was like, wow, I'm Chris Rock. I'm amazing. But after that,
talk to us about what bombing. What is bombing?
Bombing is the worst possible experience of pure failure you can have. It's totally trying to be funny on stage, but nobody thinks you're funny. You're getting dead stares. You're getting people caught. You know the sound of a person clearing their throat with a cough to an empty cavernous room, and you can hear every syllable. It's horrible. And so to experience bombing at 19 years old, when this was my childhood dream, I just wanted to be on stage. I wanted to make people laugh. I was funny amongst friends, you know? So it's like, okay, all I have to do is figure out how to be funny on stage. But then to fail those 5 or 6 times, I just, while simultaneously discovering drinking, I just leaned into the drinking. And I was like, you know what? I'm a hilarious drunk, so I'll be a comedian this way. So by the time I got to Conan, I had kind of ditched the comedy plans. At that point, I was playing in a pretty, I don't know, it was at the time I thought it was a really cool band I was playing in on campus. We were called Red 11 because we lived in the 11th dorm of the Red building. And I was rapping verses, I was playing guitar, but really it was this cover to just have a reason to drink with my friends all the time. So we would play loud music, get drunk. Some of the songs were, I learned how to write songs, I guess. And I would try to be funny in between songs. And it was basically a way to avoid, I knew, like I secretly knew I'd rather be a comedian, but I could avoid that hard work by being in this band and drinking all the time.
Patrick, I gotta say that I'm gonna ask Jimmy to bring this picture in so the audience can get an idea of what it was like for you when you bombed. This is the guy that was up on the stage, pre-beard, of course.
I was gelling my hair. I was putting so much gel in my hair every day. It was like you would bleed if you touched it, and I would do it upside down with a blow dryer. And I take hair very seriously. I don't know if you see this golden mane I have, but I've always taken my hair seriously. And at that time, I thought that was a really cool look. And yeah,
I've got to say that we looked identical, except the only thing, I'm from the West Coast originally, and so my picture would have had a puka shell necklace.
Right.
So speaking of your pictures, Chris, if we're gonna blast Patrick for that handsome spike he had, I've got a surprise for the viewers. Here's a young Chris Dickey with brown hair.
Yeah.
That's
so the
amazing.
not a lot of people know this, but I'm Native American, and this is my enrollment card, and I'm 17 years old in this picture, and completely still drunk from the night before, and my family had to go out to the reservation to get these pictures. And so I might be part of the problem when we were talking about stereotyping. Here's me drunk in my Native American enrollment card.
Wow, that's incredible. I'm so I think that's so cool that you cleaned yourself up. You were just a kid. It's crazy.
Lost,
yeah, definitely. Thanks, Jimmy.
Yeah, you're welcome. I want to hear some about Patrick. You were talking. I want to hear some of these rapper stories, because if you were a rapper, I get the vibe of like Little Dicky. You know what I mean? That type of rapper. What kind of rapper were you?
I wish. So in college, it was I was a very bad rapper. Well, I had a couple verses I'm proud of. But then when that band fell apart, I was about 2 years into my career in TV production, and I was like, all right, I gotta keep doing music. I gotta keep expressing myself. So I created an alter ego named Pat Miscellaneous. That was my rap name. And at the time, like nerdcore was like a thing that was happening. Like MC Lars, or God, I can't even remember some of these rappers. Like a lot of white rappers were just rapping about science and like magnets with the Insane Clown Posse or whatever. Like I have a song. It's a whole conspiracy theory about how Lance Armstrong is a robot, and this was before the scandal. He was winning all these races, so I just wrote a whole song about how surely Lance Armstrong is not human. So I wrote a song about having asthma, just stupid songs. And I guess what I'll say about my rap phase is that I was writing jokes, I was writing jokes in song form, and I learned, I was making beats on my laptop and being creative. So I self-deprecate a lot about it, but it is a legitimate way to
an outlet. Yeah, it's definitely an outlet.
So it sounds
what
like
you know about math.
A storyteller, right? You were doing storytelling rap.
Yeah, I think so. Sure.
With
I was
some
telling the
jokes
story that I'm gonna be good at this one day.
Yeah. So here's a fun fact about me, and I'm gonna do this. Before I was Jimmy McGill, the state recovery coordinator for Arkansas, addiction took my first dream too, which was also music, and I was a rapper, and I did really well on the underground. I made it. I had a lot of people that knew who I was. I would get pictures of strangers with my name tattooed on them. It was really weird, but I was loving it. And so I'll go through these old pictures and old posts, and I'll realize that addiction did that. It took that dream from me, right? Like I made it all the way to the finish line and then dropped the ball because I couldn't stop. And so here's the first show I ever did back in Arkansas after I left and got with Haystack. And so,
that's a much bigger crowd than I ever had, I think.
Patrick, you were talking about bombing. I a really long time ago, I helped host something called the Battle of the Bands.
Oh yeah.
And so my only job was to introduce the band coming on stage, right? And so I used that as a time to try some stand-up comedy of my own. Now I never had a dream to be a stand-up comic, but I thought, I had this funny joke in my head and it sounded really funny, but when I said it out loud to everybody, they started yelling at me to shut up and bring out the band. So I can certainly relate to what you're talking about on a much smaller level than you're talking about with, bombing and trying to get your dream going as a comedian. And so I would say I'm funny when I'm not trying to be.
Right.
But when you're actually writing material down and constructing a joke, and then going out and performing it in front of an audience, that's a pretty vulnerable, courageous thing to do. So when you bombed, you took kind of a hiatus off of that dream.
Yeah, and I went to what I perceived as the loving arms of just getting wasted all the time. Like it's the instant gratification I would get from getting drunk is what I thought being on stage would lead me to. Turns out it takes a lot of effort and preparation and repetition and hard work to be able to get that.
There's
obviously
absolutely no substitute for hard work.
Right. Yeah. And, many people are sort of naturally gifted and can be funny amongst friends and all that kind of stuff. But to be able to take that and systematize it and make it into a routine and an act was just way more work than I could handle at the time. The vulnerability of writing and all that stuff, because I do talk about my own life and my experiences and my relationship and marriage and all these things. When I'm digging into that, sometimes it's just straight up cathartic and it's a positive experience. But then other times it can get pretty funky and heavy and upsetting even, like I talk about the relationship I was in when I was at my worst with my alcoholism. And there's funny jokes to be made about that, but sometimes it's making jokes about the most painful things in our life that are the most cathartic things and get the biggest laughs. But to get to the point where those are funny, you've really got to trudge through all this just gross stuff.
There's a lot of healing that has to happen. I mean, It's funny to them, but you're the one who lived it.
Yeah.
So I want to pull this picture up if you guys don't mind, because I love the way that you've incorporated your sobriety into your career as a comedian. Like I get that, and Chris gets that. Like this is what we do. Our job is, our life is built on recovery, and it's manifested in every aspect in every area of our life. And so when I was searching through you, Chris gets mad at me because I don't do enough homework pre-show. So during the normal scolding session that I was going through this morning, I found this picture. And so I freaking love this. A punchline drunk, sober comedian.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude, tell me about it.
So Punchline Drunk is a show I do at colleges where I tell my story. I talk about what kind of a drinker I was and why I had to get sober. But more importantly, that drinking got in the way of my childhood dream of becoming a comedian. And the message is that if you're new at college, you may be able to safely drink. You may be able to safely party. But if you do have an inkling that maybe you have a problem that you have to take a look at or change, it's worth deciding. It's worth quitting now, even when you're young, because then you'll be able to go for all the big dreams you have for yourself. Punchline Drunk is the title of that show. There's a trailer for it on YouTube if anybody ever wants to look at that. And this picture, that's from a podcast I did about the show. That's a great guy, Shane. What is his name? He's out on the West Coast, and that's a great resource if you're.
That's a great podcast to stay connected. I got to say that college deal. I came to on a track at this private college in Oregon, where I'm from, and I didn't go to school there, so the fact that I'm coming to on this track. But I was actually banned from this college for a whole year because I would just they called me townie, and I hated that. I
Yeah.
would resent that. I hated that. And I wanted to be a part of. I wanted to go to these parties and do the things they were doing. And so when I would sprinkle salt and pepper on that resentment, I'd go, get drunk and wander around this campus. And the reason I got banned is because I picked up this guy that was walking with his girlfriend. I picked him up and like wrestled him down and, put him into a sprinkler that was going off and got him all wet.
Yeah.
But, I mean, yeah, so I can certainly, I was that would have been an inkling for me.
Right.
So, you know what I was just thinking when you were talking about the sober comedian and the purpose of that? I would love to get you hooked up with our state recovery collegiate coordinator.
Oh,
His job right now, Trevor Lyons, amazing dude, young cat, passionate about helping the people in the colleges. He's got this Save Our Students campaign.
Yeah.
And so he's made it his mission to connect all the colleges in Arkansas with the Collegiate Recovery Network. And so he's booming this stuff right now because he's tired of seeing the overdoses and the DWIs and the tragedies that happen from drinking and drugging on the campuses.
Yeah, he started out on a flagship campus in Fayetteville, at U of A in Fayetteville. Now he's, done a lot of really a lot of the heavy lifting as far as creating a pathway for other campuses to be able to create awareness for what you're actually doing. So yeah, we would love to connect you with him because having you come and share your story potentially could be a really great thing for our state.
Yeah, that'd be great. I've probably emailed Trevor. To be honest, I've sent my my materials to so many different collegiate recovery coordinators around the country. So, but yeah, I would love to chat more.
Absolutely. So, talk to me. I mean, in a non-quarantine related world, you're living in New York City. You can't just jump on a plane, can you, and come down to Arkansas? And, I mean, talk to us about the stand-up comic scene while we're waiting for things to start reopening.
Yeah. So
how is it impacting you?
Oh, it's bizarre, man. Well, first of all, I'll just say I'm an extrovert, like I get filled up by being around lots of people, not even just performing, just being around people like is something I need, and one of the fringe benefits of being a comic is you get that every night. You get the injection of love and affection and attention and sometimes with deep friendship connections, and then other times with this more anonymous audience performer relationship. But it all fills me up, and to be honest, the quarantine is tough for that reason. It's just like, I mean, I live on an avenue, so I can look out the window and see lots of people. But I want to go hang out with my people, or the support group meetings I go to. It's all about people and holding hands and talking about how isolation is bad for us alcoholics and all this stuff. And now we're forced to be isolated. So all of that is my normal life involves being around lots of people. With comedy specifically, of course, all the clubs are closed. The doors have been closed for over a month now, and it's just crazy. I mean, these places have been gathering places for decades. It's really a hard, scary thing for the business itself. And then there are things that are kind of filling the gap, like there's lots of Zoom comedy shows and open mics and things like that. I did a stream like this on Friday night on the Be Live site, this is my second time on this one. I've done a couple Zoom shows, a couple Zoom open mics. I've got one coming up this Friday.
Yeah, talk to us about that, because that's what I was going to kind of segue into. Like, I mean, obviously the whole world is having to adapt to this, and specific industries are certainly being impacted. And you're having to find new ways to, get fulfilled and continue to get in front of audiences. So you have something on Friday that you're getting ready to do. Yeah.
So I'll be hosting a group of comedians for Big Vision, which is a sober social club. Actually, I don't even know if they use the word sober, but it's a social club for people who don't drink or use drugs. So they do ice cream socials. They've done dances. I've produced a few comedy shows for them. They have knitting. I think they've done yoga nights and all these different things. It's a great group in New York City. It was created by a woman who lost her child to an accidental overdose. And they're on Instagram and I believe probably Facebook, but it's Big Vision NYC, and they're great. And this Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern, I'll host a handful of comedians, one of whom I learned is one of Jimmy McGill's favorites.
I got him right here. Let me bring him on.
Yeah.
That was before he met Mr. Holbert.
That's true.
Yeah. So Jacob and I, we met a few years ago doing a comedy show together in a bar basement, and we just clicked. And so he's had me open for him at probably a dozen colleges and clubs over the last year or so. And he's a great, great guy, very sweet guy. He's a non-drinker. He doesn't identify as being in recovery, but he'll be headlining the Zoom show on Friday. And he's
my
just
wife
so
and I will be there. We'll be there with you. And so hopefully everybody watching, I'm not trying to interrupt. I'm getting so excited. That's freaking awesome, Patrick, that you're working in recovery at a level with comedians. Jacob is big time.
You're going to get Jimmy so excited. He's going to start spitting.
I'm going to start busting a flow. I might be the next guy on Wildin' Out.
I think Nick Cannon might need someone from Arkansas to step up and get in there.
Man, I've been saying that, Patrick. I've been saying Nick Cannon needs to come get a Razorback.
What do you think of Maddie Smith? She's a good friend of mine also. Have you been watching this season?
Dude, yeah. You were killing it. Are you serious?
No, yeah. So Maddie, her and I, she started about a year after I did. And I remember doing this open mic with her in a bar basement where there was no microphone. And we were the only two stand-up comics. Everyone else was improvisers. And it was hot. It was like August. And August in New York City is just disgusting. And this basement was just gross. And I just didn't want to be there. But I went up and I worked on my material. And I was miserable. Because open mics can be fun, or they can just, even several years in, you just got to do them. And then Maddie went up and she just lit the room up. And I was like, part of me was very envious and jealous of her, but the other part of me was like, I'm watching a great performer who's going to do great things. And she's on Wildin' Out, and she's so great.
That's cool, man.
Hey, Patrick, I've got to ask, especially with all of the COVID-19 impact, have you ever done a routine on a cruise ship?
Not yet. And So I'm about 7 years in now, and I'm still. A lot of people would consider me still a new comedian. It takes a long time to get very good, and the thing with cruises is, for the most part, from what I understand, you've got to have a 45-minute adult act, which I have because it's easier to write racier, dirtier stuff for me at least. And then you also have to have a 45-minute clean act for family friendly. And that's very hard for me to write. So I'm not quite there yet. I would do that job. I actually I've been on a few cruises. I always went because it was socially acceptable to just be drunk the whole time. Yeah. And I think a lot of comics, it's not the most glamorous comedy job, but it pays really well. And I like the sunshine, so I would do that job. But
where it's socially acceptable at 9 a.m. to be in your flip flops with a Hawaiian shirt unbuttoned, drinking from my Listerine bottle that I filled with brown liquor to smuggle onto the ship. That was my move.
Yeah. So Joe Ray Chris is wanting information from Patrick about the show Friday? Is that a Zoom link? Do they need a ID number? Can you type that in, or somebody get that and maybe share it
Yeah.
with the viewers?
So for now, I'll just share the link to their event page, and I'm sure it will be a link that they'll share publicly in the hours before the show.
Cool.
So let me just.
Yeah, or afterwards, you can send me an email. You have my email, and just send me the link, and then we'll do a follow-up post.
Cool. Yeah. So yeah, they've got it listed here, but I'll post the link into the chat over here, and yeah, it'd be great to have a national audience that would make the organizers excited.
Yeah,
that would be cool.
So Patrick, you had a cameo a little while, about 10 minutes ago. Someone walked into your screen and then walked out wearing a beautiful plaid shirt.
Yeah, that was my wife. She was taking the dog out, and I think I've shared this with her. That shirt belonged or was given to me by my ex that I was with when I was bottoming out. So that flannel you saw is about 12 years old, but and I wish you could have seen her from the front because it won't even button all the way because she has a big baby bump. So
yeah, so tell us about that. You got some, I would say, some very exciting news. You were getting ready to be a father, but also in New York City has to have a level of concern as well.
Yeah. So real quick, I'll just say I sent the link to our host chat because I can't post in the public side. So if you can cut and paste that, the info will be there. But yeah, so with pregnancy, so last night we were just on our second Zoom. I've been only on Zoom anything. This is very great. I love you guys. Thanks for having me, but I'm over it. I'm over talking to my computer, looking at the screen. My eyes are going cross-eyed from my phone because as an addict, I'm always doing this, scrolling. But last night we were on a birth class for 3 hours, and it was our second one. Tuesday nights we go to a birth class, and it's all about regular birth class stuff, but a lot of like COVID contingency plans. So it's looking like in June when she's due, I'll be able to go with her, but there will be a lot of limitations. Like I can't sit with her through the triage stages of going into the hospital. I'll have to basically get her in the door, get her to triage, and then meet her in the birthing room. A lot of mask. Both will have to be masked up the whole time. Yeah, so we're learning about all these things, and hopefully by June, I don't know. Well, who knows? People are saying this might go on for a long time. So, yeah, we're basically taking all the precautions we can. We're learning as much as we can. Thank God they're going to allow me in at all, because at first they were saying no partners, and that really drove her up the wall. She's got the dog out now, and she's not up for impromptu interviews, but she is hilarious and awesome. And we have a podcast together, actually.
That's cool.
Which we've been a little lazy with because it's been hard because we're in a 1-bedroom in New York City. So we see each other every day, all day. So we're kind of managing, we're maximizing the space we do have. I'm in the bedroom right now. She'll be in the living room when she gets back. We love each other.
Definitely, we're all married here, and definitely and completely love my wife. And we've talked about, both of us have talked about vacillating between completely grateful for where we're at, and then on this in the same hour asking one another if we can sneeze a little different because we're being so annoying.
Yeah. I actually asked her right before we got back on here to talk 50% lower, and she has a thing with the volume level of her voice. So I've learned to be careful about how I make requests like that. We're trying to not drive each other nuts for sure.
Well, congratulations on the new addition and your family. That's a wonderful thing. And My daughter just turned 8 this past weekend, cool. And she's never seen me drunk, and it's one of those things that I'm completely grateful for. Certainly, we'll be praying for you and your wife in the next couple of months and going through that. It's definitely going to be different. It's already a stressful experience. One of the things that my wife and I went through is we're sitting down there, we've just been discharged, and we're holding this newborn with, this little bag of formula they give you. And we're like, there's no manual for this. They just let you leave the hospital. And it's kind of a funny contrast, because in Arkansas, you have to have a license to take a fish out of a pond, but they'll just wheel you out and say, good luck,
Yeah. We're getting a lot of help to be as prepared as possible. I have tonight a book club with a bunch of people in recovery, and the book club tonight is for new parents. So some of them in the group have small children. Other people are pregnant and expecting also. So yeah, her and I met in the rooms, my wife and I. So we lean on other people a lot. So and I have a little bit experience with births, because in my TV career, I filmed 3 different births, and I like to think, oh, well, I know what I'm doing now, but I can't imagine. Yeah, I can't imagine what it's going to be like when it's my daughter. So
that's awesome.
Absolutely.
So, Patrick, I want to ask you something right now, because you're in NYC, and it's a little bit off topic, but COVID-19 is affecting recovery globally, and so is NYC actually starting to get better, or is it still? I mean, what's going on up there where you're at? Because in Arkansas, the cases are rising. So.
Yeah. So I think, from what I understood, I think it started to taper, and then just this past Monday was another big day of people who passed away. I had to kind of stop watching as much news as I was. It was really kind of messing me up, because I would watch the governor briefing in the morning and then the president's briefing in the evening, and I end up going down these rabbit holes of articles, and I kind of had to. And also, I haven't even mentioned this. I got sick. I was sick from March 27th until April 9th, and I'm pretty sure it was COVID. We don't know it was. I was just, if it was a low-grade case. So I was paying attention during that. But here, I guess it's, I don't know. It seems to be, my mentality is changing a lot, because at first I just assumed I was going to be fine, because I'm healthy. I don't touch my face a lot. I'll just be careful. And then I got sick, and then they just last week required everyone to wear masks if you're going outside, and it's just so surreal. So I don't know. I'm doing a bad job at saying, basically, I don't really know if it's getting better. I haven't looked at the numbers a lot lately, and it might just be me avoiding it to keep myself sane. And now that I was sick and I feel much better, I'm hoping I'm immune. And I've also started getting this tunnel vision with getting the house ready for the baby, and throwing out stuff to make room on shelves, and all that kind of crazy obsessive stuff I can get into to totally distract myself with whatever's going on in the world.
Yeah, for sure. I was wondering, have you heard anything about what? Because we just had our first outbreak in the prison system here, and so unfortunately, in a world of an incarceration, when people are trapped in barracks of 60 and 70 together, and I don't know what the system looks like up there. I was just curious if the NYC prisons have had massive outbreaks or.
Yeah, I mean, I remember reading one of the more bleak articles I read early on, like probably 3 or 4 weeks ago now, was about Rikers Island had an outbreak, and that's a long-term jail. I don't know if they call it a prison, but it's a jail. It's a big jail on an island in the New York City metro area, and there were quite a few patients in there. But I don't know a lot of detail about to answer that question.
Yeah.
But also the like nursing homes and any facility type place, they do have these outbreaks, which is so scary. Like the population density in New York is already so dense, but then at a hospital or facility or jail, it's like even more people crammed in. So they must be having some really bad outbreaks.
Right.
Right.
Hey, Jimmy,
So
will you read Bonnie's question? I think that's a wonderful question for Patrick.
Yeah, I got it. So Bonnie Stribling, who is one of the peer recovery supervisors for the Division of Youth Services here in Arkansas. And so she's a big advocate. And she says, Patrick, do you have a lot of people in the comedy community reach out to you because they know that you're sober? Have people embraced your recovery in the clubs, or do you experience stigma related to conversation and questions?
Yeah, that's a great question, and yeah, there's quite a few of us. There's a lot of comics in recovery. Some talk about it publicly. Others prefer to kind of keep it. Like I've made so much of what I talk about on stage about mental health, and I'll talk about recovery and what it was like and all that stuff. So I've been to meetings with comics. I have brought comics to their first meetings. I've seen people. Yeah, sometimes people will ask me more specific questions about my story. They want to know, well, what's the truth behind that joke? That one story you tell, like, how did it really go down? And
they must have been relating a little bit too much. If you're in a club and they're drinking and you're talking about your estimate, and they're like, oh, I've done that.
Yeah. And you know, so there is that. And then I do have paranoia that maybe some club owners or bookers would rather have somebody on stage who's going to get people to be drinking more, you know, because that's essentially what my job is to help a venue sell drinks. So yeah, I think there's a little bit of stigma, but not anywhere near as much as you might think, because especially now with comedy, people want to hear people talk about deep issues and make the dark stuff funny. And I think clubs appreciate comics who dig deep and make audiences happy, and also the longer I'm in this scene, the more I meet comics who've been sober for 30 or more years, and it's, you know, these guys who are legends, and it's been cool to like kind of get help from people with even more experience than me.
Have you been to any conventions as a recovery comic?
Yeah, quite a few. There's the whole YPA circuit. Probably done 5 or 6 of them now, and they're just the best. It's so great. And I love when people are at their first, convention. They're in their first 3 months sober or whatever. You know, somebody else paid for them to go, and they're like, "What the hell am I doing?" And then they're like going to dances. They're like doing meetings all night. They're playing Mafia in the hotel lobby, and then they're going to a comedy show where somebody's just like saying the most insane stuff. And they're like, oh my God, I didn't know I could have this much fun sober. That makes me feel so good. 'Cause like, I'll be honest, like my 11 years sober haven't been pretty. Like that, I've had a few valleys where like maybe I wasn't going to enough meetings or whatever. And, you know, I share about it on stage, so why not here? And my wife and I talk about all this stuff on our podcast, but I endangered my marriage a few months into it, you know, 3 years ago at 8 years sober. And so now I talk about that on stage now, and it's some of my strongest material. And I think people in the rooms, you learn what connects you to other people. You learn about each other's vulnerabilities and all these things.
Yeah.
And it's this deep connection, right? And I think we can do the same thing in comedy. Like, a lot of comics are brilliant at talking about little minutia and things that are hilarious and make you stop thinking about the hard parts of life. I tend to go toward the deeper stuff, and I want to get into the things that make me uncomfortable or people in general uncomfortable. So I might not be the best comic if you want to like escape reality while you're watching, but so I don't know. I kind of forget the point I was making.
People like in recovery tend to skip the headlines. Instead of saying, "Hey, how's the weather?" We'll just go into, "Hey, I've been arrested 14 times. How are you?" And get right into the deep stuff. You know, like
you get to know a person pretty quick.
That's what that's what I love about recovery, because we don't really waste time on some of those niceties. We just get right down into the meat.
Yeah, I can and that's a great topic, because I can hide. I can get pretty good at hiding in plain sight. Like, "Oh, how you doing, Patrick?" "Oh, I'm good. Everything's fine. Great. Good to see you. Good to be at a meeting." You know, and then, but if somebody like looks at me and they're like, "No, but what's really going on?" Then I'm like, "Oh shit, I have to tell the truth. I have to like actually be accountable." Which, by the way, last 2 years has been great, and everything's wonderful.
So I mean, if you've been sober for a year, even 6 months, you've been through some things. So there, I mean, that's just I think a part of life is, you know, peeling back that layer of the onion and really finding out who we are. Yeah, we're going to make mistakes. Sometimes they're going to be at my own hand, because you know, just an opportunity to grow. Now, it's easy to say that on the other side of the pain, and looking back on it. But yeah, I had about 4 years sober, and I'm sitting in a meeting, and I thought, you know, someone was out to get me. And so I left this meeting and I took off running like Jason Bourne. Literally, I was like, I had an insane moment. Like I left this meeting, I took off running because I'm like, they're after me. And I text the guy I was sitting right next to about what I did. And he's like, "Get back to the meeting. The only person that's going to kill you is you." That's the only person out to get you. And so I walked back in, and it was like, oh, the person. I mean, it's just
I wonder if you were doing your fourth step at the time, and it was just these ghosts.
It was the birth of my daughter. It was, we're getting ready to have, so I don't mean to like say, hey, you might have, but you're either growing or you're going, right? And so it was a point in my life where I was kind of dry. I wasn't really working on myself. I was just showing up. And then you had this really stressful event, which is the birth of my daughter, getting ready to happen. And I'm like, you know, just kind of imploded on me. And had I not been going and taking care of myself with how I maintain my recovery, I wouldn't be on this episode with you all today. That's why it's important to just tangle yourself up in the web of positivity, because there are times where I'm going to run for the cliff, you know, and my support system is going to save my life.
Yeah.
You know what you were talking about a while ago, I don't mean to go backwards, but I really loved what you said about the newcomer in the convention, right? Because like I'm on the convention committee now for my area. And so our goal was to not just carry a message of hope that anybody can find recovery and sobriety, right? But to make it as fun as mentally and physically possible for the newcomer. You know, that's what it's about. And for me, that's why I didn't want to get clean, Patrick. I didn't want to give up the lifestyle I'd known, because somewhere in my mind, I thought recovery would be boring and it would suck. And how could you live without using? Like that's ridiculous. Like the life I was living was fun or something. Like
Yeah.
like pilfering through a backpack over and over for hours was why I didn't want to get clean and find a new way to live.
Better Call Saul, Jimmy McGill, Breaking Bad.
Insanity, man. It was just the insanity of it. And it was when I got in a community of like-minded people that were doing exactly what you were just talking about. The week I found recovery, Patrick, that weekend that I went to my first convention. That weekend I stayed up for marathon meetings. That weekend I got introduced to people who were cool that I found attractive and not physically attracted to, but
Right.
I found their lifestyle and their personalities attractive, and they were so happy and enjoying life that they freaking made me want to try it. And the next thing you know, I got a big wig on, and I'm in a rock band 1980s costume contest. I'm Sammy Hagar, and I win. And I'm like, what? I love recovery.
Cracker Swagger strikes back.
Yeah.
J-Bo Disco.
It was fun. I loved what you said, because that should be the mission, right? To make it so attractive that someone who's pre-contemplating recovery can't resist it,
Yeah.
You talked about recovery dances. I mean, I think we should talk about that for a minute, because there's something for everybody, right? I mean, I'm the ones that I'm not going to be out on the dance floor. I'm going to be watching, There's always some guy and his old lady. He's got the bandana on. He's like a former biker, and he's up there grinding on his old lady. And it's just the funniest thing to see. A sober recovery dance. It's just really bizarre to me.
Yeah. Have you seen Bonnie's kid Jack cut loose?
I have.
So.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, dude could teach the whole community how to get it. It's so cute.
Yeah.
That's what I thought of.
And dancing is like such a good metaphor for life in general. Like I always tell people with dancing or dating or sex or comedy or creativity or trying a new hobby or whatever, it's like going to a wedding when there's nobody on the dance floor, and you want to get out there and have fun, and you want to try this new thing, and you do, and you finally get out there, and it's like you feel like stiff and locked up, and like you can't find the rhythm, and it's just like you just have to keep moving a little bit, and then eventually you just you get loosened up, and it just happens. And I think it's true for everything, like even if it's like dating a new person, or like trying to figure out how to kiss a girl for the first time without being wasted. It's like everything. I'm like really into this idea of like awkwardness. Like I think young people hate feeling awkward. There's all those memes of that awkward moment when, and it's like, no, that awkwardness, that's life right in the nutshell. Like that is so exciting when you're in an awkward moment and it feels uncomfortable, and you can feel the chemicals changing in your body and the adrenaline come up. Like I think that little pocket, when you get to be in that and feel everything from in that moment, is the best. Like it turns me on to feel awkward sometimes,
I just literally got the chills while you're explaining that, because it took me about 15 minutes to build up the courage. I'm in my mid-20s to kiss my wife for the first time. We're under this gazebo, and it's just this like super awkward, like, I mean, the green light was there, but it took me forever to just go, like, people are honking behind me to go.
Yeah. Well, you're like, the doors open in the airplane, and the guy's like, all right, we're going to skydive now. And it's totally safe. Like, you've taken all the proper precautions. In your situation, it's consensual. It's agreed upon. But yeah, just the fear, when you finally break through that, so many other things become easy, Yeah,
but it's one of like what you're talking about too. It's the moment that I can go back and really cherish. I've cherished that moment today between my wife and I in going through that. So I really appreciate you bringing up the positive part of awkwardness. Going into the job interview for the first time. and really trying to not stumble all over your words. I remember the first time that I went to this job interview sober, I literally had a blackout moment. Like, I don't remember what I said until I was like done.
Yeah.
And and I just kind of black. It was a panel. Like, there was 4 people, and it was at a college actually. And I was like, just had this out of body experience. But
yeah, I mean, that's another big a big point I make about meetings, because I do meet a lot of people who identify as being in recovery or non-drinkers or addicts, but they don't like meetings, and they're just like, that's not for me. It's like, I'm not into it. I'm not into the God thing or whatever. And I just think the basic stuff can help so much. Like, reading in front of a group of people for some people is so uncomfortable and they just don't want to do it. But think of doing that almost every day for months on end, like the kind of practice that builds up, and the kind of like you just learn so much about yourself. Sharing in front of a group of people and reading in front of them, all those things are it's like we're doing Karate Kid stuff, like we're painting the fence, we're waxing the car, we don't know why we're doing it, but eventually you're like, holy shit, I can like take on this big challenge now.
Yeah, sweep the leg of that challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Chris, it's
how long have we been going?
56 minutes and 33 seconds. So last minute announcements. As always, thank you guys for following our page, for sharing it. Thank you, Officer Tommy Norman. We can always tell when you share our videos. We love you. We appreciate you, not just in Arkansas, but globally. As always, you can follow your host, Jimmy McGill and Christopher Dickey. My page is at Jimmy McGill Live. Chris's is at NS Recovery. And we thank you to the state. Chris, Patrick, did you guys have anything?
I just want to give the floor to Patrick, and just to kind of talk to our audience and whoever's listening, any kind of message of hope that you have.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for your time, and it feels so good to feel connected to you two, and talking about this stuff just fills me up with so much gratitude. I love being sober. It's the best thing I've ever done in my life. And with COVID, I really think we can all get through this just by helping each other out a little bit, even if it's just checking in by text or call, and following the good, orderly direction of people who know better than us, and God and all that good stuff. So, and also, I heard you mention Officer Tommy. I just want to say to all our law enforcement people and healthcare workers, thank you so much for your service. And this has been great.
Awesome.
We appreciate you so much, Patrick, for coming on. Again, we're going to share Patrick's live stream on information on how to show up on Friday. You don't want to miss that. It's going to be great. Again, everybody, the Recovery Clinic is a way for you to stay connected and engaged, find your accountability and support that you are desperately seeking right now during a disconnected time you may be feeling. So we're going to continue to be here for you as long as you're going to show up. So thank you so much for everybody coming and participating. Again, Patrick, stay safe out there, and we'll be sending our positive thoughts and vibes your way as you get ready to become a daddy. So that's wonderful. Take care.
Thanks, Christopher. Thank you, guys.
All right, guys. Thanks, everybody.